Welcome to NFL Daily, where we never let our last-second field goal get blocked. I'm here in the Chris Wesseling podcast studio, not annoyed at all that the Chiefs keep just winning these games somehow. Next to my friend, Patrick Claybon, and joined by our friend, Nick Shook, live from Cleveland, who gets in his one word at the top of the show. One word to describe Week 10 so far.
Grueling.
Grueling. Okay.
It goes with grueling.
Maybe he's talking about the late afternoon window.
The late window was rough, guys.
It disappointed us, and that's the great thing about this Week 10 recap show. Patrick, we just don't have to start.
Yeah, we can just move that along, as it did feel like we were in line at like a Swedish prison, and we were getting gruel like ladled into us.
Yeah, it's like
in the late 18th.
Like, oh, would you like a little more Cooper Rush? Oh, here's a little Trey Lance
No, I'm good.
interception. No, thank you.
I'll deal with scurvy.
That's why we start at the beginning, when there was a lot of excitement, a lot of great games, not a lot of results that I think shocked me. I'm not going to say we're settling into the part of the season where we're figuring teams out, because the second you think that, it'll flip again. But this was a Sunday where I don't think there were a lot of results that were crazy, but there were results and games that were entertaining. Starting in Landover, let's go to Steelers against the Commanders.
Wilson settles back, raises the foot, gets the snap, back to pass, looking, going to float it up left for Williams, and Williams makes the grab in the end zone. What a throw, what a catch. Mike Williams, in his first game in a Steelers uniform, has hauled in a 32-yard touchdown strike from Russell Wilson.
Oh, he threw that ball wang-dang-doodle down the sidelines. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. First target, first catch, could be a game winner, Kinger. Unbelievable.
That was Rob King and Craig Wolfley. You'll hear from both Wolfley brothers on this show. WDVE. Yes, Mike Williams, his first target as a Steeler was one of those teardrop Russell Wilson throws that, you know, he's made famous. 28-27, the Steelers hold on after a little bit of controversy, after some stupidity by Washington in the following couple of minutes. But, Nick, I'm going to start this game without having one big takeaway, because this was not a game for one big takeaway. Like, if you watched every single snap, Jaden and Russell Wilson both struggled for good stretches of the game. They only threw 50% completion. Both special teams really messed up. You look at the final score, you think the defenses didn't play that well, but the two offenses barely averaged more than 4 yards per play. It was situational. It was coaching. It was a little bit of everything, but it ends with Russell Wilson making the plays, having a couple great throws in the fourth quarter, one to Pickens, one to Mike Williams, and the Commanders not being able to execute at the end. And after a while, I think you just have to believe that the Steelers at 7-2 are here to stay. They can beat good teams, they can beat bad teams, and that they're going to be a main character in this AFC race the rest of the way.
Yeah, I think that this is no knock on Justin Fields, but if he was still their quarterback, this might have gone differently for them. This win, more than anything, I think justifies Mike Tomlin's decision to go to Russell Wilson in the way that they finished that game. But that's not the only, main takeaway from the Steelers' performance. What it really was to me, visually, was a battle between playoff contenders, and the records match what we saw. Now, not two elite teams, not a shootout, but a team that, the Steelers is a good defense. It's going to limit the strength of the Commanders, which is Jaden Daniels and the Cliff Kingsbury offense. And they're kind of going to go toe-to-toe, back and forth. They're going to have some mistakes. Like, if you look at the possession chart for the Steelers, first off, a ton of possessions. But secondly, it ends in interception, fumble, touchdown, end of game. That's about the entire spectrum of how drives can finish for you, because it was that type of game. But a gritty win for a Steelers team that just specializes in winning games like this, no matter the quarterback. And because they have Russ, they're able to throw themselves to victory in not a desperate situation, but a situation in which he's under pressure. He throws it off his back foot and puts it perfectly on the new guy, Mike Williams, who makes a big play in a big spot.
I joked because we had the day on the trade deadline, we had Tom Pelissero on NFL Fantasy Live, and we're asking him about the Mike Williams trade. And literally, there were 6 Mike Williams highlights in the package that we showed. All five of them were balls down the sideline, like go balls or deep shots down the sideline.
Yep.
And the meme and criticism of Russell Wilson is that's all he does. Okay, Well, now Mike Williams comes in, and his first catch is a go-ahead touchdown. The Steelers were able to take risks. They had the fake punt early, deep in their own territory, and they had that. It was a good look. It was a good call. Just execution, a drop out on the edge, and so the Commanders get their first scoring opportunity there. But what leaps off to me was I was thinking the Steelers defense would give Washington and Jaden Daniels problems with scrambling. He had 3 carries for 5 yards.
Yep.
And I went back and looked. His entire career at Arizona State and at LSU, only one game where he had less than 5 yards rushing. It was when they got blown out by Georgia in 2022. Other than that, that's a carry. That's one play for Jaden Daniels. The Steelers were able to shut him down all game.
They had a great rush plan where I think they decided to give up a little bit of, getting sacks. It wasn't a huge sack day for them to stay in their, with their integrity. And Tomlin said after the game, like, you got to be careful comparing him to Lamar Jackson. That's a multi-time MVP. That's Mr. Jackson. We'll see him in a few days. And I think what he was saying was just, look, he's done it before against Lamar Jackson. Let's see what Jaden Daniels can do. And they only had 60 yards rushing, the Commanders, all day. I think they missed Brian Robinson. And you're right, pointing out how many possessions they had. That short touchdown drive was part of a first quarter where they had 4 possessions and they barely moved the ball at all, like 3 and outs. You just hadn't seen this. And yet they did get a lead because they got a short field. They had a nice touchdown drive before halftime. They were really good situationally. They had another one coming out of the half, and they're kind of rolling. Cliff is getting Terry McLaurin open. I'm so impressed with how Cliff Kingsbury has called games this year. And I flip it around, and when they were in a good spot thinking they're going to be able to stop Pittsburgh. And I'm wondering, like, why aren't these teams playing Russ with split safeties anymore? I texted our friend Mina Kimes about it, and she just is going crazy because 83% they played cover 3 today. Russ was 1 for 3 for 13 yards against cover 3. And, like, that is his one move. And I think if you're a defensive coordinator, you got to do everything you can to stop it because otherwise, their running game was okay, I would say, on Sunday, but the passing game was very erratic. They had the great touchdown early that Pickens adjusts for. There's another deep sideline that Pickens makes a great play, but otherwise, it was a lot of go balls that Russ likes to throw to Calvin Austin and Van Jefferson, and they were not working. So this was a game with a lot of possessions. It was really intriguing both ways because Washington couldn't get much of a pass rush except for Frankie Louvu on a blitz. Their natural pass rush wasn't working. It was 2, I think, really well-coached teams, which is why the ending was a little surprising. Let's break it down here. The Commanders get the ball back after that touchdown that we just heard, and Washington starts moving the ball. They don't get the first down on a play, a 4th and 9 to Zach Ertz, where he's coming back from the ball. They rule him just short. The replays aren't really conclusive. I actually think they probably made the right call. It was tough to really figure out. The Steelers get the ball back, just needing 1 first down to really ice the game. They get it to a 4th and 1 at midfield. They go out, then they rush to the ball to get a snap. They are able to draw Johnny Newton offside. Game over. They were never going to snap the ball. They were going to punt it away. So in the end, in a coaching game where the margins were so slim, I think like the Steelers kind of won it in the end, and a rookie on Washington's side, failed them, and Pittsburgh gets out of here with a win.
Yeah, and that was a bummer for Newton. In that instance, you knew they were never going to snap the ball. At one point, they thought they were going to put the punt team out there, and then all of a sudden the offense trots back out there. But it is what it is. That's what happens when you're a young player in the NFL. On that spot, though, they did get the right call. Like, it was correct. He was short. But where they actually spotted the ball was wrong. I just want to point that out. I know I'm completely splitting hairs, but he was not at the 42. His foot was at the 42. The rest of his body was near the 41. So let's just get that straight.
I'm with you on that, Nick, and I think it's something that, and again, it maybe only bothers those of us who truly are frustrated with consistent spotting of the football. But if you're going to review whether or not the line to gain was obtained, at the very least we could do is put the ball in the right spot. The Steelers are going to get the ball.
Exactly.
The Steelers are going to get the ball anyway.
Okay.
But I would just like to have seen it, because if it's in a challenge situation, we see it happen a lot where the coach is challenging that they didn't get the line to gain, but the challenge does reveal that the spot was way off. I think coaches shouldn't lose that challenge, but ultimately, yeah, it's a rough one for Johnny Newton. You could tell in the Steelers' body language after they got him to jump off sides. That there it was. In fact, no way they were going to snap the ball. That's why they were celebrating so viciously, like 6 Russell Wilson fist pumps to go with it.
Russell had some nice dance moves afterwards. Like I haven't seen him move that well on a field in a while. He did have one scramble like for 6 yards that was kind of key. I was like, okay, he's moving a little bit better. I will point out, I think Jaden Daniels was a little off in this game. Now, it might have been what the Steelers were showing him after the snap, but he just missed about 4 or 5 throws that would have made a difference by just a couple yards. Like a Noah Brown throw on that final drive right before the 4th down, where Noah Brown had a chance to come back and catch it, but if he had led Noah Brown, I think maybe he makes that catch. There was a big miss to McCaffrey. There was a couple others where maybe he didn't lead receivers in such a way, and just a couple misses that we hadn't seen from Jaden Daniels most of the season. I'll give the Steelers a lot of credit. I think we're kind of confusing him. He only ends up 50% completion. Massive win for the Steelers to get to 7-2 because their schedule is so tough coming up. The Commanders fall to 7-3. And while we're giving Russ some love, let's look at his Instagram post because I thought this was cool. 2 of the class of 2012, him and Bobby Wagner both getting it done in this game. They signed each other's jerseys. Forever legendary, forever brothers. Love you for life, bro. They gave us an F grade in 2012. This is true. That I do remember, actually, there were some, like, Fs. The Seahawks did not.
He needs to name and shame.
Yeah.
Who's they, Russ?
This isn't one where it's a straw man, because I remember this was a story for a couple of years after that, where their draft grades were not great when they drafted the great Russell Wilson and Bobby Wagner. Maybe someday teammates in Canton.